Okay, welcome everyone for a new edition of the DevNation show number 5. I think there's a pretty big delay because it took a long time before I could go live on YouTube. But it's not really an issue because the game that we will play at the end doesn't require really real time, okay? You will see most craziest game ever, okay? Yeah. It's already time. I went fast. I forgot to take my red hat t-shirt on. So I'm in sync with my cap at least. Okay? Can you confirm in the chat that everything goes well with the sound? Because, you know, we have a lot of moving pieces in this show. Even today, it's even crazier. You will see why. Okay? Hey, I see DJ Mehdi there, as always, Edson, Burr. Awesome to see you. Today, the show will be great. Today, I want to talk to you about passion and emotions. Okay? The interview that will start in a few minutes is with Nicolai, and you can really feel that he's passionate. And I will ask him how this passion started. But I want to ask you the same question. Well, I'm not going to ask you a question. I'm going to ask you to think for a few seconds, even close your eyes if you want, and try to remember the really first line of code that you wrote. Okay? And remember that moment that you hit enter on your keyboard. Try to remember how you felt, your feelings, your emotions. Okay? It's really something important. And I see Charlie there on the chat. Hi, Charlie. Okay, so let's think for 10 seconds. Try to remember. Maybe you were a kid. Maybe you were a teenager. Maybe it was last week. Maybe it was yesterday. Okay? Doesn't matter. But try to remember. And then I will share my memory with you. Okay? Let me drink some water while you are remembering this time. Okay. There we go. Okay. Let me share my memory with you. Okay. For me, it was in 1985. Okay. And let me share. And that's me here. Here. That's me here with my father. My father was a teacher, and I was 8 years old. I was playing with Legos. It was raining outside, and my father comes back from school, and he says, Sebi, he came in with a big box, and he said, you know what? I got a computer in there. Do you want to help me setting it up? I said, of course. And I went with my father in his office, and he put out the huge monitor, the small computer. I got it here. Let me show you that. It was this computer. It's a French brand from Thomson, an MO5, MO5. And he plugged it. And he turns on the computer. And what appears? Well, let me remove this. A command line of BASIC, okay? And what I'm showing you here is the real BASIC. I'm using an emulator. And he gives me, it's a little bit laggy. Okay, I hope we don't have the same issue as last time. And he gave me a small book with some instructions and he say, okay, go play Seb. And I remember one of the first things I did was something like this. So, and then 20, and go to 10. And then I saw that I had to type run. And that is what I did. And what happened? Well, yeah, I saw my name appearing. And that was crazy. That was my first emotion with coding. Believe me, that was the starting point of everything. Okay? And it's important that you remember these kinds of emotions. Okay? And let me just double check. What I did after that, this is basic, I learned another language. Maybe you remember, some of you, oh no, that's a wrong, oh, that's a really old Pac-Man. Not good game, okay. But funny to see that. I want to come on, steady. Logo. There we go. I learned another language called Logo. Maybe you remembered it. I got here the French version with the turtle. So I give him French instructions like AV for avance, move forward of 40 points. Okay? And I had my turtle moving 40 points. I could make a turn, I could make loops, I could make some functions, and that was mind-blowing for me. Okay? And later in the show you will play a game based on a technology that is more or less related with that. I will tell you more about this later. Okay? So, it's almost time for the interview. Usually I play a weird instrument, and here I was planning to play music with this programming language. We can try it, but I discovered that Blue Jeans filters out the sound of my computer because he thinks it's noise. So we can try it. But what you can do with Logo, you can say joue, which means play, and then you can give him a notes. So in French you have fa, which is F, do, which is C, and ré. And let's try see if we can hear it. I don't know if you hear it, but if you hear it, that was supposed to be the jingle. I had a huge program. Believe me, I took a book. Now you remember this time, maybe you, if you are the same age of me, you remember these books where you have listings to type. And that is what I did. I typed a whole song in, and then my computer crashed a few 1 hour ago. So I didn't have the courage to type it all again. But if you check my Twitter, you will see the full tune running. Okay? Okay. Awesome. Oh, I see a lot of people there. Awesome. Thank you. Oh, Pierre is there. Awesome. So that was it for the jingle. Sorry. It's going to be time now for the interview, and it's going to be awesome. Okay, so small interlude for the interview, and then we start. Okay, hey, Nicolai.
Hey, Zep.
Let me just go back to my normal view here. Yes, and let me do side by side so we can see each other side by side. Okay, let me check with the stream. Yeah, I have a huge delay today. I have almost 10 seconds, I think. But anyway, how are you, Nicolai?
Hey, I'm fine. Thank you for asking, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, sure. First, do I pronounce your name well? Nicolai or Nicolai?
Nicolai, yeah, that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Okay. So, I always start like this in the interviews. Please, for people who don't know who you are, can you try to introduce you in 30 seconds or in 1 minute? Tell us who you are.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Nicolai. I'm a Java developer. As usual, as most developers do, I do a few other things as well, but that's the main language that I have. And you keep joking, like if you're paying me for anything but Java, you're doing it wrong, because it's the only thing I'm proficient enough to make a living off of. And I started getting interested more or less by accident into what happens in the newer Java releases. Back then, new to me was Java 8. I tried Java 8 out a couple months before it came out. And then I started writing a blog, and then Java 9 came out with a module system. I got interested in that as well. And for no particular reason, now I occasionally speak at conferences, and I do all things online that you can do. I stream on Twitch later today, by the way. I have a YouTube channel, a small one. I have a blog. I have all kinds of things because I'm always interested to try out new stuff. So that's what mostly do. I try new Java things, and then I share that online and offline as well at meetups and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So I think you saw my intro because I saw
Yeah.
you. So what was your first computer? What was your first programming language, and when was that?
Yeah. So actually, when I got my first computer, that's kind of like a little bit lost in memory. I don't know. I got an Amiga 500 just for gaming, and I remember. Yeah, and I remember back then, like it took me like a year to figure out that when the disk doesn't work, and when it boots into this kind of like crazy green screeny thing with these crazy icons, that this is not an error state, but you can actually do stuff there. Because at first it always meant to me, shit, the game didn't load. That's how I started getting to know them. The first real thing we did there was, my dad did I helped my dad do some finances, right? Something that must be a precursor to Excel. So, I had like cells and we put the money there that he paid for this and for that. So that's what I helped him with. And I remember that I didn't know how the shift key worked. I remember I hit caps lock, would type the letter, the one uppercase letter, and then I would hit caps lock again to type out the rest of the words. And I think I could have done more with that thing because I was not a programmer by heart back then at all. It started to me to actually really start programming was in high school. In I think 10th or 11th grade, we got computer science as a high school, as something that you could study there. And that's where we started. And we actually started with Turbo Pascal, and Turbo Pascal has something that is very, very similar to Logo. I never heard about Logo, but when you showed it, like it was maybe even a bit simpler than that. It had like you would guide like a small robot, and it had like fields, and you had like talk about 40 pixels, right? We didn't even have pixels, just like it was cells basically, and there were walls. And if you ran into a wall, you would die. But you could check whether in front of you is free. And I don't remember the exact first line, but I know that the first program I was really proud of was that this robot could just walk through the entire labyrinth without hitting walls, right? It would go just ahead, and when it would hit a wall, it would just turn until it would find a way to continue, and then would just go that way. And that was the first program, and just like you when you saw your name Seb, it was like, wow, this thing is doing what I'm telling it to do. And it was like, and I still occasionally have that feeling when I'm like stand up and joy, like, yeah, fuck, it works. That's so amazing, it works.
To be honest, I do the same. Sometimes I do.
Yeah.
Well, the game that we will play at the end, it was so crazy, but when it worked, I was just jumping in my office. Yeah, it works. It's important what you say. You were proud. So you were proud when the program was running well, and I think it's an important feeling that we must all be aware of. And I think we don't think enough about emotions. We as developer, we are in a really strict scientific world, but a bit of emotions is important, especially during this weird period of time that we're living through. Yeah. So and acknowledging them too, right? When people argue about tabs versus spaces, it's almost pure emotion, the debate. But still, everybody's really invested into it, and we should just acknowledge that. Well, there are some rational arguments for both sides, but mostly it's just about what I feel more comfortable with, and what I'm willing to fight it to the death over. Tabs are better than spaces. When I'm in a project where people use spaces, I'm like, okay, spaces then. So it's just like, but we should accept that. Of course, we are emotional people, right? But we often feel like we have to hide that under a veneer of rationale, where you come up with, no, I have 20 good reasons why really, I don't know, React is better than Angular, and just saying like it just feels better to me. Like that's not something that we often do. Although that's perfectly fine too, right? Like every maker who's, let's say, somebody who works with wood, they will tell you like this. I don't know. I don't work with wood. Let's say this hammer. I like this hammer better for no particular reason, just like it feels better. That's a good argument to make. I think in computer science as well. Like I just like IntelliJ more than Eclipse. I think it's better, but mainly I just like it more. Yeah, exactly. Well, it's good that you say that, because I'm making jokes about tabs, spaces, but for some people they really take it seriously. And I say, as I said, I do take it, like if you want to discuss what we think is better, I do take it seriously. But like if we're in an environment where we don't have that discussion because it's an existing project, it was already settled, then it doesn't make sense anymore. Okay.
But just for the record, tabs or spaces?
Well, to be honest,
You don't care, okay.
I don't want to start a flame war here now, but we all know that spaces are better. But anyway,
Oh, come! I gotta go now.
anyway, yeah, and so you were proud and passionate. I say that because I saw you 2 weeks ago at DevNation Day. You were in the last slot.
Yeah.
And that you can really feel when you are talking, when you're live coding, that you're passionate about what you're showing. Is this passion because you like to share, or is it just because you love coding, or is it a combination of that, or can you?
That's actually a good question. Yeah, it's a good question. I think different things come together there. So first of all, since I've been using Java for more than a decade now, we all know its shortcomings, and it's always like a little bit frustrating when you have like a clean solution in your head, and then you realize like, it doesn't work like that for, I don't know, reasons. Now I have to write like 10 lines of code, what is like a really simple thing to express actually, or I have to like make a very roundabout way of using an API, even though what I want to do seems very straightforward. Good example, I just want to have a list with 3 items. Why do I have to say new array list and then add and add and add? That I don't want to do that. I want to express, give me a list with 3 items. And so when there is a new feature that does that, like it feels really good. It feels like, oh yeah, I've come up against this so often. It's not like a big thing, right? Like what I basically just talked about is collection factories. That's not a big thing. I mean, Guava has had that for like, I don't know how long, probably also a decade. No, but the point is like, it's not big, but it's still meaningful. It's still important for me. It's still something that I'm happy that is now different, that I can now, do something a little bit easier. And, like if it's just a small improvement, but you do it, you use it a lot of times, that's just a cool thing, right? It's like, so when I see new things like records and var and, the new APIs that were changed or added, I always feel like, yeah, this is going to make my life easier. So I'm enthused about those changes, right? I'm already passionate this thing is in there. But then also, and I think everybody who knows me can agree, I just like to talk. I just like to share what I know. I like it when people like, when I can tell people something, I can help them and teach them something. And yeah, I think that goes together really well. So I think it's not an accident really that I ended up, for example, speaking at conference or doing YouTube videos. It's a mixture of me being interested in these improvements and me being able to share them in a at least sufficiently competent way that people are interested to listen or to read. And then also just liking to be able to share that and to help people out, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I mentioned my father in the beginning in the intro, and he's a teacher, and I wanted to be a teacher just like my father. That was my dream. But then I discovered computers, and I loved computers more. And so I became an engineer. But like you, then I was able to go to conferences. And then I realized, hey, I'm combining these 2 passions, sharing my knowledge, being on stage. Well, it's not a classroom, but it's almost the same.
Yeah.
And it's great. Okay.
Yeah, it's very similar actually. I just glanced at the chat, by the way, and the chat seems to be in favor of spaces. So you got a weird crowd there.
Let me see. Yeah, spaces for Renan. Oh yeah, spaces for Bird.
I'm sure they're all JavaScript developers. I'm gonna get booted off the channel now.
Okay, please in the chat say if you are a JavaScript developer or not. By the way, do you know how to code in JavaScript? Do you?
That's really interesting. Like most of the things that I learn more or less by accident. So back like a couple of years back, I was working for a company that had just had they just needed someone to work on this project. It had a bit of JavaScript in it, and like everybody else was super busy. So just asked me, "Can you do this?" And I was like, "Well, how hard can it be?" It was just a bit, right? So I started with just a teeny bit of JavaScript here and there, and then later, same company, I inherited a full-blown JavaScript project. It was just plain JavaScript though, so no frameworks in there. That really helps to getting to know the language a bit. And now I've just these days, I'm finally going to finish my new website. I've worked on this for ages, and it's built with Gatsby. And Gatsby you basically build a React application that then is rendered to a static website during the build. So you write it as if it were a React app, but then there's a build step that turns it all to static HTML and JS files, and you can just throw that at GitHub Pages or any other server, really, web server. And so now, yeah, I'm like, I've done a lot with JavaScript and JSX now and CSS, and I really feel proficient too. Like, I now realize that many of the things that I used to have to Google 2 years ago, I can just do them now. I know how grid works and how table works. Sorry, how Flexbox works and stuff like that. And it really feels great to because in Java, like when I look back, what I know now, what I know 2 years ago, I'm not sure whether I learned more than I've forgotten because I don't code quite as much anymore as I did, right? As I did. So like I don't feel like I'm improving in Java. I probably am, but like if I do, it's so incremental and so small that I don't quite feel it anymore. But with JavaScript, I can look back to what I knew 2 years ago, and I know way more than that dude. That was a noob back then, and now I know like all the things, well, not all the things, but most of the things. And React, for example, I know the part that I've been working with very well, but just the niche, right? It's basically just the niche which does not deal with state, which is just like, I know how to write all the JSX stuff and things, but if you now have to write a real React application, then there's a ton of other stuff that comes in. But now I would feel comfortable tackling that because I have like a bedrock of understanding now, right? I know JavaScript and JSX and enough of the React basics and CSS to get going, or to get started. I'm sure I can learn the rest, figure it out as I go.
Can you align vertically an element with CSS?
Flexbox is actually really easy. So vertical and horizontal alignment apparently seems to be hard. Well, that's also very cool because I think that's also, by the way, something that might become true of Java in a couple of years. So in Java, for the longest time, there only ever used to be more or less one way to do things, right? You wanted to iterate over a list, you would write a for loop. That's just the thing. And now you can also stream. And now you have to pick which one do you want to use. There's more like an old school and a new school one, maybe. With streams and loops, both have their niche. But there are more and more changes in the Java ecosystem, where it really is like, for example, when it comes to, let's say, mocking frameworks. A couple of years ago, there was a big war going on, and now more or less Mockito won, right? Like if you start a new project, I guess most people would just pick Mockito up. And so I think Java ecosystem is evolving, and in many areas you get more choices, and that means that you have to know which one to pick. And if you're from the older school, like I would describe myself now, you have the old and the new stuff in your head, and it can be harder to pick. Like you might still be tempted to just write for loops because you know them so well. Picking for loops as an example, right? Or you might be hesitant to start to use var because that's just not how you used to write Java code. Maybe you don't want to use records because you like get and set in front of those names for no particular reason, but maybe you do. But when you start with Java now, you don't have that clutter from the past. You can just look at these solutions, ask someone who is fairly knowledgeable and knows, has a recent opinion, ask them what would you prefer, and just go with that. And that's why I'm with JavaScript right now. So many things in JavaScript that used to be hard, or CSS that used to be hard, especially Grid and Flexbox, made so many layouting things so much easier. And I don't even know all of these problems. I never learned those problems. I never went through that phase. I just have a problem, look at the Stack Overflow question, and if the answer is from this year or last, I just do that, and it turns out like I know Grid and Flexbox now pretty well. And you can do so many things with those, and I don't even have to go through the struggles. So I think it's interesting if you start into an ecosystem late, of course you're at a disadvantage because so many things you don't know. But also you can pick the best approaches and your brain is not cluttered with the old ones. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. What do you think that new Java developers, let's say in 5 years from now, a new Java developer, will we still make a class with getters and setters, or will we just use records?
Well, I have to say, since Java 8 came out, for me that was a very important change to the way I wrote Java code because it made my code more functional. And I use that with big quotes because I don't actually know real function programming. But I understood that, making stuff immutable, passing functions around, and then also learn a bit about DDD and realize, well, some things, not all objects are the same. Some things are more like services that do things, and others are more like data, which just hold data. And the more I understood that, And the more they changed my code, and if I write code in my own projects now, in existing projects, it doesn't always work because it might be hard to fit in. But on my own projects, I tend to have many immutable classes, so I don't have any setters anyway. And it turns out that I've not been using get and set for ages now. Actually, when I started going to IntelliJ, one of the first things I did, that was a couple of years ago, like 3, 4, 5 years ago. I changed the template. So when I generate getters and setters, they don't actually have the get and set there.
Okay.
Because I don't want a get name. If I have a customer, I know what get name is a verb, and in Java we learn that all the methods are supposed to be verbs, but I don't care about that. I want to know the customer's name. So I already removed the get and set there. So when records came out and they didn't use get and set, I was like, that's amazing. I don't even have to change code. I don't even have to use a refactoring. I can just like turn things into records, and there you go. So I think, I know that web frameworks and maybe something like Hibernate, so there are other frameworks that might still need this. They might need the Java Bean a way of writing these out. But for my own code, I didn't need that for a long time, and I feel really comfortable with that. So I think records have a huge impact because there are so many places where you can use a record instead of a bean if your code is okay with them not being mutable. Right? If your code is written under the assumption that you have one customer instance for each customer that you can mutate any way you want, then records won't work for you. So I think it depends a lot on that. But I would guess that if you start writing Java code now and you will learn a bit about this, this more functional approach, with less mutability, then I'm sure that you will use a lot of records, for example. Yeah.
Is that, what is your favorite new feature? So we have the seal classes, records, var. Is there one thing that you put first as your?
Yeah, I think it could actually be records because so when at the talk that I gave at DevNation, was like it was really not a lot of time. I talk fast as it is. It got worse during that talk. But what I do is I take a Java 8 project, or on DevNation I started Java 11. And then, I make the updates and then use the new features and APIs as long as they fit into that specific project. And we can see the line count drop. And if you introduce records, it drops by like 20% or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's pretty great. Not only because, you have less code to maintain and there's less room for error and all of that, but also it's not about less code really. It's about being more expressive. I can now express in a single word a concept that would otherwise take the reader of the code, like studying this class for 30 seconds to realize, oh yeah, this is just a bean. It doesn't do anything fancy. It's really just a customer with a name and an address and a birthday and some getters and setters around that, and that's it. But usually you still have to read through the class and see, is there anything special happening? And with the record, I can express that no, nothing special is happening. It's just a constructor equals hashcode toString, accessors, and if I want to do anything else, it's just an extra piece of code that you can support immediately. And that's what I like so much about, because I feel like many of the new recent Java features make Java more expressive. Yeah. And I think that records make the biggest difference because you can use them the most. var, for example, you can also use that in many, many places, but that's not something that makes Java more expressive, really. It just means you just save a little bit of typing, and you can read code a bit easier because you don't have these long type names. But var doesn't make Java more expressive. Text blocks do maybe a bit, but records really mean this a new abstraction that the Java language now understands, that we developers can learn, that other developers can read, just like lambdas, right? A lambda, you read lambda, you know what this is. It's not only the code that's in there. You also know this is basically it's a strategy pattern. You know this is an action that you can pass around. So you express something more than just a bit of code. You express, I'm passing around an action. And with records, you also express something. And these language features that raise Java's level of expressiveness, those are the ones that I'm most interested in. Records, I mean, they just do that a lot, right? So you can just use them in many, many different places, and they just change a lot. So yeah. Other than that, by the way, it would be lambdas.
Lambdas, yeah. And records are easy to learn. The concept is not complex. Yeah. You just read it and you say, oh yeah, that's how records work. That's also
exactly.
And it's really expressiveness. You can express a lot in a really small amount of characters. So you can make code in tweets with JBang, for instance. But I've played with that. You know the project JBang from Max Anderson?
I know, and I roughly know what it does. But if you can explain a bit more what it does in
it's
detail,
just a script. It's like you just write Java code and like a script, and you call JBang on this script, and it runs this Java code for you, and doesn't care if you don't have the JDK. And it's really an easy way of writing. I knew that a bit with the Groovy script language, but you have this for Java. And the funny thing is you can point to any source and you can point to a tweet. So your tweet can contain some code and you can say JBang the URL of your tweet. And I did that with records and even with sealed class, I think I tried it. And yeah, so that was just, you should try it. It's a really nice project.
Yeah, I'm asking because I've done something that could be similar. I always want to look into that, whether I can combine these two projects, because the last time I really went like, yeah, this works, this is amazing. That was a couple months ago when I wrote a wrapper script. Since Java 11, you can execute Java source files directly, right? And I assume that JBang uses that facility as well. So what I would do is I wrote a small script that you put in your shebang line, instead of the actual Java executable, you would put my script name there. And so my script would get your JavaScript. And what it would then do it would compile a Graal native image in the background.
Oh.
So the next time you launch the exact same script, it would identify it by hash of the content. It could pull the native image and run it immediately. And I always feel like there's some overlap. Maybe that's a feature that we should get into JBang, because I just played around with it, right? It took me like 6 to 8 hours to get everything mostly working. But it's just a proof of concept. But I think something like JBang could really profit from that idea. I've seen that script before. I've compiled a native image, and then it launches so fast, assuming JBang also launches fast, because my project didn't. So my script was still like the JavaScript. So you saved the 1 second to launch your JVM, but you spent that to launch my JVM now for my script. So that was bad. And when I tried to native image my own script, things broke, and I didn't look into it any further.
But makes sense, because I'm thinking also, we are brainstorming together. Because with JBang you can also run Quarkus projects, and with Quarkus you can now write CLI projects.
Okay.
So yeah, if you compile this Quarkus CLI project to native, and then you can use JBang and run it natively.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The project I wrote, it's called Calice, because Calice, I think, is the place where people believe they found the Graal, someplace in Spain. So anyway, right, so yeah, exactly. It would put native image on disk, right? So it would identify the script with a hash, and then would put the native image on the disk with that hash as a name. So it could quickly decide, I've seen that before. So it's transparent to you. Ideally, it should be transparent, right? You just write the script, throw it at, what I wrote, or in the future maybe at JBang, and it just does the right thing. You don't even have to think about that yourself. It would just automatically go in the background. Although, since your script probably takes just a couple of seconds to execute, and creating a Graal native image takes 1 minute for Hello World,
yes.
You will notice that something is happening.
Yeah. But it should happen in parallel. The first time it should run with the JVM, and in background it should compile.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, that's what I do. But the thing is, your script ends, and then it's like sitting there while I'm still busy with the native image. Come back in a minute or two.
Awesome. Cool. I'm checking the time. We are almost at the end already. It went so fast. Because I think you have a stream after that or something like that.
Yes, I will stream in 2.5 hours.
Okay.
I'm working on today's actually a big day for us. So, we're working on, a JNet 5 extension pack called JNet Pioneer. And, so I say we, because, I started that project ages ago together with someone, and then I started working on stream, I think last year, November or December, and, people got interested and kept watching, and it was really cool. It was really great way for them to get to know the project, because they watched me work on it. And then they started contributing, right? Because they've seen there is this small issue, Nicolai explained it on stream, That's just a small thing. And now I have a good picture of what the code base looks like. So let me try. And within like a little bit over half a year, we went from me alone working on this like like 2-3 hours a week, one evening, to now we have like 3 maintainers and a couple of people who regularly contribute. And that's really cool. So we're doing the 1.0 release today. We prepared everything last Saturday on stream, and we've got everything settled, and everything is like hopefully works. So we're going to do some final tests today. And if everything works, we're going to release JNet Pioneer 1.0. So I'm really, really looking forward to that.
Oh, super cool. I will retweet. I guess you will tweet that, and I will retweet that. For the
So if anybody out there is interested in JNet 5, come by, have a look, and ask whatever you want to ask. I'm not sure whether we're actually going to work today as well. I think we're just going to, do these tests, release, and then have a beer, because we're working towards this for like since May or something. So it's really cool. We're mostly going to hang out. So if people have questions, I'd be happy to answer them about all things JNet.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listen, there was a lot of chat, people speaking about recurse, about languages, so it's great. It's been a great discussion. Nicolai, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. It was a great talk. For me now it's time. You can hang here, maybe just turn off your camera, but if you want to play with us, we're going play a game now. Well,
yeah, I think I'll hang out.
Yeah, and it will be the audience against me. And I will be playing Doom, and they will be playing Tetris. And how the both combines, I will explain that in a few moments. Okay?
Okay. Hey. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me again. It was really fun, and see everybody around. Bye.
Okay, thank you. Bye. Okay then. Hey, let me see the time. Yeah, we are pretty okay. I'm looking for my water because I'm thirsty. I'm a bit stressed because now I'm going to. Well, we have the news section, but the news section will be more. I will explain you how I came with this idea of the game. Okay? So a small break, and we are back in 5 seconds. Okay, and I'm back. Okay, so we are going to play a game, but first of all, I'm going to explain a bit the history behind this game. So, as usual, it started with a discussion on Twitter, I think, and we were discussing how to make live sessions like this one or webinars more interactive, more fun. And if you come to this show, we know we are trying to do that each week with games. And someone told me, let me switch to my correct view here. There we go. Oh, I'm on the wrong. Let me just switch to the correct view here. 1 moment, please. I'm almost there. There we are. Yes. Okay. So, and someone came with this project. He say, Sebi, do you know about Cube, about Doom Cube? You know, what is that? You say, well, it's Doom, and you have monsters, and these monsters are pods, and you need to kill these monsters. And when you kill these monsters, you kill the pod in the cluster. What? That is awesome. I want to do it. I will show it in my show next week. So, and then I realized, I say, okay, but if I do that, I can create pods with the command line or apply some YAMLs, and you can watch me shooting these pods, these monsters. And that's not so fun because it's not interactive. So I came with a second idea, which was, well, it would be nice if the audience, so you, have to play a game, or at least you can create a pod. That was my first thought. You can create a pod. And I was thinking, how can we do that? Well, the simple way, I can provide you a URL which pings my clusters and creates a pod. I could have done that, but that's not funny because it's way too easy for you, and you will spam the URL and you will create thousands of monsters that will attack me. So I thought, let's try to make a game for the audience, for you, and you have to make something, you have to achieve some score, some stuff to be able to create a pod. And then I was thinking, well, how can I make a game? Okay? And here we come back to my intro. Remember I showed you logo? Well, there's another project, and maybe one day I will do a whole show on this because I love this. This project called Scratch is from the same team that invented logo. So Seymour Papert invented logo at the MIT in Boston, and the team continued to work, and 10 years ago they came with this project called Scratch, which is a real programming language, okay? And I can give you a quick demo, and you can easily create games, animation, whatever you want, okay? So that is my cat. Do you see my cat? Let me just double check everything is working. Yeah, because I have the delay here. And let me see. So here I have my cat, which is the sprite, and I can give some instructions to this cat by moving these blocks. Like here I get move 10 steps, and if I click that, my cat will move 10 steps. Okay, I got some controls, so I can say move for 10 steps, 10 times 10 steps. Okay, so he will move then by 100 steps. Okay. Why did he move? Oh, let me try again. Oh yeah, he didn't move because I'm clicking here on the green flag and I don't have an event on the green flag. So I have to put this here. When the green flag is clicked, move, repeat 10 times, move 10 steps, okay? And you see my cat moving. And this way you can do really, really, really funny stuff and really crazy stuff, okay? And my advice is really that you play with it, and you will play with a game of this in a few minutes, but play with it and show that to your kids, to your nephews, to your parents, to your grandparents, to your husband, to your wife. Show them this and let them play with it, and they will have fun and they will understand a bit the power of coding. And believe me, my kids do a lot of Scratch. I still do a lot of Scratch. I just have so much pleasure playing this game. Let's do just forever here, and there, oh, he goes away. Okay, I can grab it by the tail here. He goes away, and if I go here in control, I should have a block. No, in motion, I should have a block called if on edge bounce. Okay, so make it bounce and set the rotation style correctly. And there we are, we have our cat moving. Of course, then you can add some strokes to listen to the space bar, to everything. You can do a lot. So, to come back on my game ID, I say, let's create a game, a Scratch game, and that Scratch game will create a pod in my Kubernetes cluster. And of course, you cannot do this with this Scratch. But Scratch is open source. That means that you can take your own copy, git clone from GitHub, your Scratch. You can modify it. You have to dive a bit into JavaScript JS6. But I managed to create a custom version of Scratch. Okay, and this version I deployed that on my cluster. So if we go here, if you check this Scratch is running on my cluster, and I made the build and I made some tweaks to it. Okay. And people, I'm going to share the URL with you right now, so you can come on this Scratch playground. Okay. Let me go to the chat. Okay, and please join me there. And so you can just take a look, and then I will give you another link, which is the game you have to download and import here. You will see it's really easy to do. But there you have a Scratch running on Amazon in OpenShift, fully functional. What you don't know is that it's running in a pod. Well, I got it here. It's running in a pod. Let me show you that project. It's called Scratch. It's running in a pod, let's take a look at this pod, and you will understand which technology is behind. Do you recognize that Quarkus? So the front end is Scratch, the back end is Quarkus. Why is that? Because in Quarkus there's an extension called Kubernetes Client, which makes it really easy to talk to a cluster, to create pods, retrieve pods. And I say, okay, let's make a backend in Quarkus that will create the pods, and let's create a custom block here in Scratch that will that will call this API. Okay, you are starting to see where I'm coming. So, do people have Scratch loaded on their computer? Because now I'm going to share you another link, which will be a file that you have to download. It's just 1 megabyte, so it should be fast for you. Okay, so let me share that on the chat here, and there we go. So please download this file. It should be called Tetris show.sb3 for Scratch 3, okay? And that contains the game that you are going to play. Okay? In the meantime, I give you a few seconds. Please be chatty on the chat. Tell me if you managed to do it. What we are going to do here. Let me reload this and imagine it's like you have a blank project. So it could take some time because it's 20 megabytes big, I think, the JavaScript project of Scratch. So depending on your connection, it could take a bit of time, but you should have a blank project like this, okay? And the file that you download, we are going to import it in here, okay? But please wait before starting the game, okay? Because otherwise you will be creating already pods. And let's try first that I show you how Doom works, how the integration with Doom works, okay? So, but anyway, for people, if you want to import a game, you go to File and you do Load from Computer, okay? And there you go to Downloads, Tetris Show SB3, okay? And that should load the project for you. And you can recognize here that we have a Tetris. Please don't hit the green flag yet. I'm going to switch to another view. It's everything. Should I upload to Scratch? Yeah. So you go to File, Load from your computer, and you point to this. Okay, I see that Gabriel is ready to spam. Okay. Charlie say, whoops. Okay. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to start Doom, Cube Doom, okay? And I can show you that actually maybe. Let me go to this view. No, let me go to the other view. This view. So we can close this. Okay. I lost my mouse. There we go. Okay. I'm going to launch a Docker container, which is the game. Okay. It is the Doom game that is launching locally on my other computer, and that will listen to my cluster that I showed you. Okay. Then I have to open a VNC connection to the game. Let me do this, and I can do that. No. I can do that here, and I type the password. Okay, I got a Doom. Let me move to another view, which is nicer. I remove the browser. I move Doom where I want it to be. Okay, people, ready to go? So the idea is you will start the game by clicking the green flag, and you will play Tetris. Each time that you make a line, it will create a pod. Okay? And it's nice. I can see that no one has played yet because I don't see any pods here. When you will start playing and make lines, I should see pods here, but I should see monsters in the game. And I'm going to try to kill them. And they will appear here. Oh, I see a monster already there. Ooh, okay. And that is a pod. Okay. I just wonder, okay, he's killing me, but, I'm just wondering why I don't see any pods here. Let me just double check that. Here, oh, yeah, it doesn't refresh. I have to go back. Okay, so, wow, there are already some pods there. That's awesome. There are a lot of pods, okay, so it will be really hard for me. But, I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to type IDSPSSPOPD. Now I can go through walls. Because otherwise it's too easy for you. And I'm going to type another code here. And now I have the rocket launcher. Okay, are you ready, people? Here I come. Dun, 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 dun. Whoa. 12% of PV. That's going to be hard. There are a lot of pods, and I'm dead. But I'll come back. Don't worry. I come back. New game. I'm too young to die. And let me type the other one. Let me double check a bit how many pods there are there. Because I think you're going crazy with the pods. Running. Wow! You are good. At one point, it will stop working for you because I won't have any resources. I think on my, I won't have any resources on my cluster anymore. You are all crazy. It's awesome. Looks like it's working better than I expected. Or people are clicking on the block. If they discovered a bit the block, they can click the block. But please try to play the game. Also, tell me how many lines you are doing. I'm interested. And I'm going back in the game, don't worry. I will be there. I'm going to try to kill some of you. There we are. But, okay. Wow. There are really a lot of pods. Let me kill some pods here. You cannot catch me from here. I'm cheating a bit. And you can see some lag. This lag is each time that Dooms calls the cluster. And to be honest, it hasn't been coded the best way. Next week, my guest will be Aurélie Vache. And she's really good in Go. And this integration has been made in Go. And she promised me she's going to refactor so it will be more smooth. It will be using the API because here it's using the kubectl command in Go. That's why it's so, yeah. And I think I never had that many pods. It's crazy. It's awesome. Let me just be there. Let me see how many pods. What I could do, I could delete. Oh, I killed some pods. Let me see here if we can see the pods that I deleted. But there are so many. But I'm happy. Looks like it's working pretty well. Oh, and looks like the game crashed. Let me see what is happening here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, let me see. There we are again. Oh, and I'm dead again. Okay, let me come back one more time. And it's crazy. There are so many pods. And it's just a pretty simple cluster, but it's running a Quarkus image. So let me kill some other pods. Do you people remember the cheat code? I was doing that when I was a kid. But now it's not working. ID DSPOPD. I don't remember the cheat code because I'm under stress. So let me try with here the pistol. And you see all these pods. So in the other version, we will probably try to remove the ID and just keep the name to make it a bit more clear. But there are a lot of pods. Can we count the pods in OpenShift console? I don't know. Yeah, 60. There are 66 61 pods running right now. Okay? I love it. Okay, we are almost done. I have to leave the channel for the for the next part. I will write about it. I will clean up the code so that you can also run it, play with it. Okay, there's a lot of moving pieces. Just let me go back here to the to here. No, not this one. Doom. Back to Doom. Oh yeah, and just out of curiosity, let me show you quickly where it happens. So we got something called line here. Let me see. To broadcast. I don't remember. But anyway, I'm using here a block that I made myself, which is called create pod. Okay. So if you click this, that will call the Quarkus backend and create a pod, and then it will appear in Doom. So that was a lot of fun. You clearly won. I could not manage killing all of you. I was not expecting that many pods. 30 lines, Digimedi, awesome. Stopped after 30 lines, yeah. And brr, what was that old cheat code for blasting monsters? Yeah, I have this cheat code. There are in the GitHub repo. I can go there. I can quickly check. It's called there. If you type IDS. Oh, I missed the S. So let me just one more time. Type IDS BSBOPD. Can I go through walls? Yes, I can go through walls, but I forgot to change my weapons. So that will be crazy. Look at all these pods running through me, and I'm fearless. Come on, pops! I'm not afraid of you. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Oh, whoa, whoa, and I'm dead. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that game. I will run it again, maybe in a different form, maybe with another game. This time it was Tetris. Maybe next time it will be another game. Maybe with Knative to see how pods can skill. Well, I see an infinite way of having fun with this. So next week we will have Aurélie Vache. She's famous for drawing sketch notes about Kubernetes, about Docker, and we will talk a lot about Kubernetes, Istio, Docker. She knows everything about this, so it will be awesome. This time was more Java. Next week we're going back to a bit of Kubernetes stuff. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, add comments to the YouTube channel, tweet about the show, and thank you so much. See you next week. Let me go to the right screen and I see, bye bye.